All right, what are we doing here? We're getting ready to start doing Lab 6. I got to get Lab 6 going. So, we can talk on any other topics too, but I got to go look at what I built for 6 already, specifically the worksheet. And then we got to see what's going on. So, just kind of working through the same stuff we were working through yesterday, earlier today. And then we just got to make sure that we're hitting all the right topics. This can get out of the way here. And then just looking at the things that we were doing from the other day and or earlier today even. But this is Linux group 6, so unit 6 for the Linux automation. And I just want to see what we were working on. That was all review to there. Well, to right about there, that was all review. And then this week was dealing with, wait a minute. Yeah, this definitely had some mistakes. Hold on, let me go finish the mistakes. That was the last. Did I not change that over? I just don't think I changed these. All right, so let's fix this real quick because this is gonna bug me if I don't fix it. Let's go down to here. If you guys want, this is one. Oh, actually, this one hasn't been recorded yet. So this one, I do need to fix a little bit. This one was release engineering. So for Unit 6 was release engineering. And questions around what release engineering was. Hey, MHD008. And then also, what's my other question was Aptainer v Packer. So, Aptainer. Right, comparison and contrast, which, by the way, is a very useful thing. I mean, you learn that very early on in, like, kindergarten and stuff, how to compare and contrast things, but it's still a very useful way to learn how things work. We're going to add the Aptainer to the directory, because that's a real word for purposes of this. Unit 6, how do we track things? How do we kick things off? Container image workflow. All right, so these are all things that we had done and talked about. Docker images, why you would do some of these things. So maybe I'll do some deployments where we actually put some stuff in there. I do have some deployments where we can create things with like Podman, but we can also do the same type of things with Packer as well. And what it ends up kind of coming down to is kind of this idea of here's an Aptainer build right here. We do that in the lab, but also, so that'll be probably the last one. But the other thing we do is, oh shoot, where is it? I think it's in HashiCorp. No, it's Kubernetes lab. And I do like my 3-tier app. And when I teach you guys how to do a 3-tier app, we have some Docker files where we pull a version of Python and then we build from a requirements.txt. And that requirements looks like this. And it's all the things that you need to get that thing working, right? And these get then built into your system. So we copy it in and then we move in there, we install all the requirements, and then we copy in our app. So then we have this app, and the app is whatever we're doing, but in this case we were doing Flask with Python. So it was like a really simple like read, and all it did was import some stuff. Or if it was just view, it just did some very basic little stuff, right? And this all gets added into the container after you pull it down, right? So you pull the container down, do the Docker, right? This pulls it down if you don't already have it, and then it builds your container, and then you can push it back up to wherever your repository is or whatever. And this is a way to do it, but we can also do it with Packer, which is actually going to be part of the lab for this week. Well, I'm building Unit 6 lab, so I'm a little behind, I guess, as far as that stuff goes. But we're basically doing the same stuff I was doing earlier. I'm just building out the labs and making them more ready for everybody, for the group. And that's kind of where we were for right now. Not going to change any of this stuff. Not going to change any of that. And what we'll probably do is in our automation labs, we'll either build out unit 6 or we could kind of go for an easier one and do our like checkpoint 1 or I guess like review 1, which is going to be reviewing the first 3 topics. So there's going to be kind of like a between unit 4 and unit 5 review. Also, I do have Brotato running still, so I'm still going to be playing Brotato while we're hanging out. But if you guys have any questions about, you know, systems work, or if you want to see anything going on in the home lab, let me know. I got all kinds of stuff going on. I do need to figure out, I got some stuff. Loki's running. Not full. Loki's listening. Oh, is this a UFW status? Okay, it's inactive. Okay, good. Because I forgot that this is a Ubuntu box. So some of my boxes in my environment are still Ubuntu. I haven't moved them all over yet. But yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking about or working on or whatever. I'm kind of just not working too hard. The wife's going over to a function, and I don't necessarily want to go. So I'm just hanging out at home. I'm just gonna hang out at home and do Linux and play video games and such until she comes home. So, oh wait, she's still here. Wifey. Okay, I'll see ya. Now the wifey's gone. Now it's just us hanging out playing video games. Now she's going. Not yet. Soon. By the way, I've already beaten the game proper. We're just playing around in the later levels now for fun. Like there's no real. The game just kind of keeps going forever. Take more crit, attack speed, and let's take more experience. Yeah, fuck it. Even more experience. But the enemies are going to be real hard to kill now. Just for this one level, though. Jeez. Wasn't kidding about real hard to kill. So I doubled all their hit points twice. So they've got a lot of hit points. That's a hassle. That's more of a hassle than I thought it was going to be. If I can't keep outrunning him. Oh, I got 21 more seconds, guys. I don't think I can do it. Oh, I lost. Well, I won. MHD008, you said, do I do security? Yeah, I do all kinds of security. Yep. I actually have a whole course on security, which is free. If you want to know about it, I can give me 1 second here. Let's pull up the old PSC. I think that's it. Yeah, we got a little security engineering course that it's actually in week 7 right now. But this is a free course that goes over these topics right here in Linux systems. So build standards and compliance, securing a network, user access and system integration. And then the way the course actually looks is kind of like this. You got a bunch of unit stuff to go over. You got topics, and you got videos of me talking and walking you through stuff. And then there's a bunch of more definitions and things if you want to dig deeper on it. And then there's a lab, and the lab is always kind of challenging. You got to go in and do these commands, like you go look at like the way that your system's built, right? Because security is all about the way something's built. So maybe we do a mount grep for no exec and see if any of our stuff is mounted in such a way that there's no execution from those mount points, right? And then there's like a no dev. And then there's also like a no SUID, right? And these are things that can be set. And for certain, if we go and actually pull up the STIG standards, there's reasons why certain directories have to have those. Now, I'd be willing to bet on this system those are not set for like home properly or temp properly. Maybe on some of these other temp FSs, but not on the actual temp directory. So the standards are not being met in my systems for some of these like security posture things that you need to adhere to for mostly government systems. When I do stuff like that, I mostly do government systems. So yeah, but strictly speaking, yeah, I do a lot of security. Let's do multitasker and let's do laser guns again. I didn't get to finish this one earlier, so we're gonna play this one. And the goal of multitasker is, or the skill of him is he can have 12 guns. So he can have twice as many weapons as any other character, but he loses damage every time he gets another one. So that is super freaking annoying. There we go. All right. Thing keeps popping up in my face. Come on, give me a gun. There we go. Lock that gun in for next round. Yeah, so if you guys have questions about that stuff, or if you want to know anything specifically about how you might get started in that, I can definitely tell you that kind of stuff if you want to. Also, if anybody cares, I have a bunch of industry certs on security as well as training and teaching people on it. So, I mean, I guess there's all that too. And when I say teaching, I mean at the college level. So, take that. Damage. Oh, we want the geckos. Geckos make all the stuff fly at you. So we definitely want those. If you can get all 4 of them, then everything on the screen just flies at you, and you don't have to go collect stuff like the loot on the ground anymore. It just flies to you. So I got a 25% chance right now that it'll all fly at me, but when I get all 4 of them, it'll go to 100% chance. Okay. Oh, I did not realize that guy was going to get me there. Okay. We need to get around towards the tree, because you do... Oh, I didn't get it. You always want to pop the trees if you can. Shoot, we'll take more armor. And more guns. And more attack speed. You're doing pen testing? Nice. Yeah, we have a few pen testers in the environment. I did some red teaming for a little bit there. Really depends what your kind of interests are. I find myself more building Linux systems and keeping them all the same. That's kind of something that I excel in, is building a bunch of machines that are exactly the same. I do a fair amount with Ansible and Bash. A little bit with Perl still, but for the most part, Ansible and Bash. Damage. And shoot, hit points, I guess. We want to do more damage. Wasting all our money on rolls. Alright. And we're back, Atticus. Yeah, and I'm just playing video games a little bit in between, kind of working on stuff. If you guys wanted, we could just do the stuff from the automation course, and we can kind of go through it and look at it instead of me actually building a lab, because I get that building a lab is kind of slow and boring anyways, but I just kind of wanted to get them out of the way today, because then I could be all caught up. But I also found out today too, Atticus, that I did Unit 7 incorrectly. I was doing Unit 8, so now we'll get it fixed in the next few weeks, and I haven't recorded any of them yet anyways, so 6, 7, and 8 still have to be recorded, so it's fine. It's relatively benign. That was attack speed. We want attack speed. We'll take range damage, get another gun, take an ice cube, get more trees. Trees are good because when you pop a tree, you can get a little container out of it, so that's kind of useful. But yeah, what happened was I did, where are we at here? Get out of there. This one, I think. I did Unit 8, so I did Kubernetes environments for this week. So our lab for this week really does technically need to change its name to Unit 8. I could do that right now, actually. This one here, Unit 7 Kubernetes, really needs to be, we can rename it to Unit 8, right? And then over here in the structure.json, we got to change this to Unit 8 as well, so that when that all gets pushed, right, Control S, save it. When we push that up, it'll properly change Unit 7 to Unit 8 for syllabus syllabus adherence, right? Commit. Whoops. Push that up, and then we can go actually look at what's going on there if we want. Killer Coda, boom, right here. Go look at our little creator dashboard at Tanis automation, and that when it gets put will no longer be Unit 8. It'll move over to Unit or no longer be Unit 7. It'll be Unit 8. Oh, you know what? The name might not be. Hold on. Let me go look. I might have to fix the name in here. So inside of this, I might have to fix the index.json Unit 8. That also needs to be fixed. And then, fixed naming. Yeah, because like the outside system doesn't actually care how it's presented. Doesn't actually care what the underlying name is, but that'll fix all the links to it and everything. So, yeah. I appreciate that, Atticus. I try to make this kind of valuable for people that are interested in this kind of stuff, right? And right now we're just kind of messing around on stuff, but I do want people to know that there's a place where they can go, right? We've got all these labs. This stuff's all free right here, all the book. But I think the guys recently changed the book up a little bit. So if I go to just our GitHub, oops, maybe I got to go look at where's our GitHub at? Maybe I got it off of mine. I thought I had our GitHub. Maybe it's right here off of the Prolog. I don't know. Prolog.org should be back up. What? We're not up. Give that a second. But yeah, this should also change. So this should be Unit 8 now. Give it a second. Yeah, it says Unit 8. Yeah, there we go. So Unit 8's good. We built Unit 8 the other day. I think yesterday I built that. And then I built Unit 5 this morning, which I thought ended up being pretty good. Utilize variables. So yeah. So we have, first one is test and execute your automation tools. Then we execute automation tools to interact with the operating system. And then we execute our automation tools to interact with inventories. And then we use them to do run one-off and administrative type commands. And then we did variables. And then in between here, so 6 is going to be deploying like Docker images and such. And then and that's really Packer and Aptainer to build. So that's what Unit 6 is. And then Unit 7 is automating the deployment of those, which could be both Ansible, which I know more well, or Terraform. Which I did have a Terraform cert for a while there, but I've let it lapse because it was really funny. The day, I think I told some of you guys, it's the day I got my Terraform certification back in like so it would have been like 2021. I went in and we were like gonna have our first of these meetings to like work with Terraform and all this stuff, and then the manager, we're sitting in there talking through, and he goes, "Well, maybe we don't even need to use Terraform." So I just like put my little Terraform cert away and never ended up using it professionally, which is kind of funny, I guess, but. It's like $75 and a whole bunch of studying, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, I still enjoyed doing the process of it. I've still gotten a lot out of using it. I just never got to really run with it professionally. So, but it's a fine tool. It works fine. You just got to make sure it's something that your team can stomach as an appetite, right? Like your team has to be willing to work through and use those kind of things, which is one of the reasons why Bash and Ansible are so widely accepted, If you want to run Linux, you have to know Bash. And then if you want to interact with that well, Ansible does a pretty good job. So good enough for the lay person, I think, to get into it pretty quickly. Like what we call the learning curve is pretty shallow or pretty light. It's not hard to get into some of those tools. All right, don't want that. Take crit, sure. Take another gun, take more speed, take more damage. And we'll take trees die one hit. That's useful. And we'll skip all this stuff. Yeah, so I'll make a poll over here on the Twitch side. You guys can decide. Do we do? Well, let me go make a poll here real quick. And where's the polls at? Did they change it? Did they take away my ability to run polls? I thought I could run a poll in here. If I can make a poll, there it is. Manage a poll, and I'm gonna say new poll. What do we do next? And it will either be build a lab or run through all the labs together. So run through all the labs together. That'll be your options. And I'll give you guys 10 minutes to vote on that. So there's a little thing if you guys want to decide what we do next. I'll do pretty much whatever. I'm just not working super hard today because it's Sunday and just chilling. That's why we don't want to let those little eggs pop. And they turn into those guys that are much more difficult to kill. We don't want to give them the opportunity to pop up if we can avoid it. There you go. All right. That wasn't too bad. Attack, damage. Hold on to that. Range, regeneration. That should be good. And let's see if we got any. We'll run through the labs. That's fine. It looks like we got 2 votes for run through the labs, so we'll give it a little bit of time for people to finish voting, and then we'll go. We'll do the labs. That's good. It gives us something to do, something to work on. And for people that haven't seen all the material, you can just do the labs, and then if you want to go back through and read the book, which again is free, the book's out there. So, in fact, I think the book is actually linked in the labs. So if you're doing the labs and you're like, oh, that's interesting, I want to go read more about this, then you could just spin up the book right there. It's all online. You can even print it as a PDF if you want, although it's not finished yet. So we're only about halfway through the course right now. Main thing is I do have discussion posts, and people that are doing the course with us do have to do the discussion posts. And there's a reason for that. Main reason, in case anybody thinks, oh, Scott just wants us to have to do work. No, the main reason is that, you know, in the professional world, you are going to have to show your work to other people. People are going to look at what you do, right? We don't do anything in a vacuum. So it is kind of important that we understand. And that's that thing. So yeah, if we end up running through all of these, we'll do all these labs. Here's the link to them. Let's see, what do we got? People are still voting, but we got 2-0 right now. So, and I can even change it to dark mode so that you guys don't feel like you're looking at a bright screen. All right, we'll give it a little bit, and then we'll jump into labs if that's what you guys want to do. If that's what the people want, we'll give the people what they want. All right. This level is just like beating a loot pinata. You just basically kill all these guys. Super easy. It's just a loot pinata level. Just work them all over. Then these guys start popping out, and they're typically pretty strong, but I've got pretty hard-hitting guns, so it's not that big of a deal that those strong guys are in the back line, because they try to charge you from the back line so that they can still get to you at least one hit. But it's not that big of a deal when you're using the guns that I've got, which are They're the hardest hitting guns, but they're slow. They're super slow. So I am trying to get my attack speed up so that they then, you know, can just turn into really, really hard hitting SMGs, basically. We want this for pickup range and harvesting and more damage. And then we're going to give everybody double hit points. But to do that, then we'll also get more XP. So that's good. And then we'll get more XP as well. And then we'll also hit harder. So we want all of these things. We'll take this, even though it's not great for range damage, but it gives us hit points, and that's important. All right, everybody's got double hit points this level, but we hit really hard, so we'll still clear most enemies one hit. Not the big guys, though, but most of the littler guys will kill one hit. Big guys take a few more. Not too much more, though. Yeah, Brotate is a pretty fun little game if you guys haven't played it. It's a little time waster, right? Just burn a little bit of time, go do something else, burn a little more time. Quick levels, all the levels go. Jeez. That explosion that killed everybody was that thing that I bought earlier that makes me hit everybody on the screen. I can explode one time per level like that, and only when I'm down under 40% health. So, all right. Attack speed, that's huge on this guy. Armor, so we don't get in that space again. Attack speed again. And then we'll take magazine, take a lure, we'll take the schmoop. Do we want to give them double hit points again? Sure, whatever. And then we'll take more attack speed and more trees on the next level. And then we'll take a little pocket factory, which isn't super useful for right now, but it gets a little more useful later. And yeah, that's fine for now. Can't believe we're negative on damage, though. But our attack speed's pretty good, so now we need to start getting our damage up a little. Oh, man. Yeah, I definitely need to hit harder. We got a good amount of guns, and because this guy has double guns, but we need more damage. And again, these guys do have double hit points for this level, so that's a little bit of a detriment to us, but we hit really hard, even with the limitation of low damage right now. When I say damage, I mean +% damage, which is not, we don't have very good +% damage. We're -6%. So, while the guns themselves hit very hard, they are not, that's not as good as it could be. All right. Kill him, kill him, kill him. There we go. Yeah, see, because I couldn't get in the middle of the level. Sure, we'll take that. Take it. More hit points. Take all that. You only can have 3 of these, but the hunting trophies give you extra material when you kill somebody with a crit. So we'll start building our crit up. And we'll get our luck a little higher, too. We got our first boss coming. That's good. Our poll has about 2 minutes left, so if anybody wants to vote on whether we go build a lab or run through the labs next, it looks like run through the labs is winning. All right, what's our boss? Who are we fighting? This guy's probably one of the easier bosses, but I need to be careful as I say that so I don't just get myself killed. He is still dangerous. He's not super dangerous, but he's a little dangerous. He's about to start charging. Yeah, there you go. Once they get to half health, they go into this they go into mutation mode and they start charging. Still not a super dangerous boss in the big scheme of things. He's definitely not nearly as hard as other bosses are. And he's down right there. Should be down, yeah, there we go. The bosses always drop a red item, so I have a chance of getting a pretty good item. But you never know. Sometimes bosses will still just drop one of the terrible reds that are like garbage items. So we'll see. They can't be weapons, though. Chests can't contain weapons in this game. You can only buy weapons in this game. Which actually makes it kind of good because you wouldn't want to throw away what's in a chest. It ends up being a pretty good little shop system. Oh, see, that's one of the garbage ones. It's gives you hit points, but you get regen for how slow you are. And it's like, who the hell wants to be slow? Like, you're slow, and no. I've literally never taken that. We'll take more hit points, I guess. More crit. And then we'll take our hunting trophy and that. And take the gambling trophy, because it's cursed, so it gives us more. And then we'll hold on to the whetstone. And we do need another laser gun, so we'll get this laser gun. Alright. This isn't a bad... We're doing okay on damage. But now every time we kill a tree, it'll turn into another little turret. And the turrets don't hit super hard, but one of the nice things is if you have status effects, like I have a burning on this character. If you're burning, your turrets can burn people. And you might say, well, that doesn't sound that great. Yeah, but if you apply a burn and you're on the other side of the map, the enemy can take dot damage while you're far away from them. So it's not great damage, but it's just something extra to thin out the herd. Make everything a little less, a little less hit points. Now, normally, you don't grab things. Like, I'm at full health, but you see that I'm still grabbing the items. The reason I'm doing that is I got an item that increases my regen every time I grab something at full health. So even though, like, I'm wasting, by grabbing things, I'm wasting healing, but I'm setting my regen higher so that while I'm running around, I would get more. So, I never take those, never take that. Speed's fine. Take another laser gun, more damage. Guys on Twitch, you can vote if you want. We have voting going. Oh, it looks like the poll has ended, and we're going to run through the labs. All right. Well, let's finish buying stuff real quick. 153. Let's combine this and take that gun, lock that one in, and move this out of the way. All right, so we're doing the labs for the Killer Coda around. What is this? Did this ever come back? Yeah, there's prologue. Okay. I think I need to build... I'll build a little curl that just keeps an eye on that. Because that should now be... Yeah, it's back up. Okay. I need to just build something that checks that every few minutes. But we'll go to the first one. Here's the first one, which is automation tools. And I will link it to anybody that wants to do the lab with me. So we'll kind of do... This will be the normal deal that we normally do around here. I'll move this over to the right. Oops. No, I don't want that. Move that back over here. Grab this. You come this way. There we go. And then this can go up this way. There we go. Now you guys can see your chat or whatever. People love seeing their own chat. All right. So we are going to hit big. And then we're going to say this lab is designed as part of a larger set of instruction that is free from the Professional Linux Users Group. That's Prolug. The lab book for this course can be found here. So again, if you're doing the lab and you're like, well, where's all the other free stuff? Here you go, right? So we're going to go in here, and then you found yourself in a bash shell. Ensure that you can execute simple commands and interact with your environment. So this first one, the first lab that we kind of did, was really just around doing the basics of the system, interacting with bash and that kind of stuff. So let this finish. The environment's standing up. I think it's installing Ansible in the background. I think that's what's going on. We'll let this lab come up, and then we'll go. Yep, there's our Discord. Everybody's welcome down there. I think we got about 4,300 people in there right now, almost 4,400. So when this is done installing, it's going to take a few seconds to install the background scenario, whatever's going on. I don't do that much in this one, so I don't know why it's taken so long, but give it a second. What we'll probably do is in between labs, I'll go do some more Brotato, because that amuses me. I use that to kind of take my mind off of other stuff. All right, this is taking a long time to install this scenario. I'm surprised. Let's go look. What's going on in that environment? Automation Unit 1 setup. It just installs Ansible. That's all it does. All right. So we say which bash, and it tells us where bash is. User bin bash. We know we're in a bash shell, right? We know that a few different ways. We can do echo $shell, right, like that. We can echo, so here's bash version, so we can see the version of bash that we're in. We can do echo $$, which will show us the process ID or the shell. And then when you've got the process ID, this is the process ID 14701 of the environment you're in, right? Of the program you're in, strictly speaking. Because if we were to run a shell script, then that shell script would generate a new process ID for itself, and then we could use that for this $$ is useful for generating like temporary directories and then cleaning them up and that kind of stuff. So this 14701, if I did a PS EF and then I grepped for 14701, I should see it in two places, at least two places. But in this case, we see 14701. Here's the process ID of bash, where we see ourselves. And then it's the parent process ID of this process PSEF that we ran. And then also the piped grep that we ran looking for 14701. So this is the parent process ID. Sorry, well, this is the process ID of the bash shell that we're in. But it's the parent process ID to these two that just ran separate. So now we could do other stuff, right? Like we don't need to go this much into it, but we can look into what that process is doing. 14701. What libraries, what dynamic link libraries is this touching? And are all those the ones that we expect them to? What terminals are they writing into and looking at and all this stuff? There's all kinds of things that we can look at with this process ID. We can also go down into, we're root, right? So we're the root user. So we can cd to proc 14701, and we can actually, this is all the information about that process that we're in, right? And we could really just dig into that if we wanted to. Take his code to make it compatible for me. All right, so then maybe we want to target some servers and we want to loop over them. So I jump into, so this course isn't about becoming experts in any of these things. I have all kinds of other labs. There's all kinds of other good resources out there for you to get good at bash. But what we do look at for a second is a control structure for server in control plane and node 01. This list can happen many ways. I happen to put the two items here at the command line. We can also loop a bunch of different ways. We can interpolate a bunch of values in there. We can read out of a list. There's a bunch of other ways to do this for loop. But then we do a timeout of 10, and we SSH to a server, and then we ask for a host name and uptime. So we hit the control plane node, did an uptime, and then we did node 01, and we checked that. But if we wanted to, we could modify this and do a whole bunch of different things. We can do literally anything that we could do normally at the command line between this do and the done. We could say for I, very common computer sciencey thing to say for I in, and then in here we could do a sequence of like 1 to 100, let's say, and then right here I can say do echo I am counting $I, right? And then I can sleep 2 and then just be done, right? Sleep 2, done. And now if I run this, it'll just sit there and it'll count, right? So it's super simple stuff, right? Not anything groundbreaking, but you're in a bash shell. The labs start out doing bash shell stuff. And then we jump over, and the next thing we want to do, we just want to make sure that we can execute in our environment. You've decided to verify and test Python on your system. So we're going to verify our version of Python, and we're going to test that we can execute and import modules. So if you were just on a system like this, you may cd back to go back to your home directory, and then Python version would show us the Python 3 version that we have, 3.12.3. And then we can come down here and we can maybe jump into that. And in there we can import OS and import maybe matplotlib. And then if it failed, why might it fail? Well, maybe we have no matplotlib. Maybe we need to get that somehow. And then you can correct it if you want, but you're not required to for the lab. So let's exit. And then we should be able to say like pip 3 install matplotlib. But watch, it's going to give us an error, but we still do it anyways just to see. And it says, hey, buddy, if you want to do that, maybe you should say apt install Python 3 dash and then matplotlib, right? If we want to do the math, this is matplot libraries, right? And install. Well, it would help if I spelled install right. And then run that and see if it'll install it. And it says, yeah, hey, buddy, I'll install that for you. But look at all these dependencies. A lot of things we got to update. That's 188 megs to get that matplotlib in there. But, hey, if you need to do some of your sciencey stuff, you want to be able to plot some kind of sine wave, you typically have to have NumPy and matplotlib. Those are two very common ones. And you might say, well, do you have NumPy? I don't know. I can try to import it. I can check, right? Look at all that install. I don't want to wait for all that. Anyway, so then we go forward, and then I say we've decided to test Ansible, see how Ansible works. Do we have it? We'll give it a second. Also, you can always go back in your labs. Right, I can always go and check these things out again if I want to. Now that matplotlib's there, we can see if we solve the problem. It should be there. Should be fixed. Let's give it a second here. And this is not the type of thing that's going to make you an expert in any of this. I'm just showing you that the tools are there. Typically, as like a sysadmin and a Linux engineer, my needing to do this is to like verify for my, different dev teams that I've applied the right things to their systems, right? And I can then install that when I build the system, and then I can go if I want real quick and test to make sure as their user I can import whatever it is, and then I just go about my day. I don't worry about whatever other problems they might have. Oh, but I might want to check import, right? Import NumPy. I don't know if that's there by default. It might not. It is there. Okay. Right, and then we get out of the system, and then install the module using break system parameters with pip. Yeah, pip3 can install it. There's just the more preferred way over on Ubuntu nowadays is just to do the apt install, which is fine. Pip3, you may also do pip3. I'm the root user, so as a normal user, sometimes you can do that just in your like virtual environments or whatever. So some people don't even worry about what's here as long as they can go build in their virtual environments, They don't really care. All right, so anyways, so now we're going to test some Ansible. And we go look at the Ansible version. We've got 2.16.3. That's how you say that. That's the major version, the minor version, and the patch version, typically, if we're looking at semantic versioning, which is the common way that you need to know how to do things. And then you might do Ansible like this. You might type in Ansible with a dash and hit tab a few times. And here's all the different Ansible stuff that's there. And maybe you might want to look at Ansible doc-l, and this will show us all the different modules that are there. Takes a while to load, apparently. And I can go look up and down here. I can go down, I can go up. It's an interactive shell. And I can maybe do a / for copy. I need to find a copy module, so there's Ansible built-in copy. And then I can keep hitting N and going and looking for Windows copy and NXOS. I don't even know what that is. That must be a Cisco thing, it looks like. Community EC2 AMI copy. So maybe you got to copy an Amazon machine image between your regions or something like that. You can use Ansible for all this stuff, right? Now, we're not doing AWS strictly in this one. We've done AWS in different environments. I don't normally have people put their AWS keys up into, like, we like Killer Coda and we like the environment, but I can understand not wanting to put your keys up there, even if they're just temporary keys for the day or something, or even just temporary keys for a run. I typically still want to put them up there, Ow, it's not the way we normally do things. All right, but anyways, hit Q to get out of that, and it says right there Q to exit. Then maybe we just do a word count to see about how much is there. I think it's like 8,000. Yeah, 8,450. 8,354. And then maybe we go look for just the copy module, right? Where are all the copy modules, like we were just looking for inside of there? And then maybe we go look at this Ansible doc for built-in copy. And then now I can go look for the copy module. If we're going to use copy, we need to have destination. That's required. But interestingly enough, source is not required. Source is not a required value. You might think, oh, you need a source Here's remote source, which is different. Are we using a remote source or local? And then here's source, right? Source by default pushes from the machine that we're in, unless you do remote source, and then the system will look on, so each node that's running the Ansible playbook will look locally. And you might say, well, why would I ever want that? Well, it's very possible that all the nodes have like an NFS share or something. And because they have an NFS share, they might all just pull a file themselves instead of pushing it from one node and using its bandwidth. MHD008, do I record my streams? Yeah, all my streams are over on YouTube. So let me think that should show you guys YouTube. So if you want to follow over there, and yeah, I got everything over there. MHD. I've been streaming for quite a few years now, trying to show people Linux on the internet, show you guys how this stuff works. So yeah, this is strictly speaking automation, but that's yeah. Well, I recorded. It's all over on YouTube. All right, so let's go back. So that's the whole lab. I think when we're done, it says, look at you learning automation. You inspected your tools, their versions, and executed basic commands to verify functionality. So that is the full first lab. Now, if you go and you read the book, right, like if you go and spend time in the free book, by the way, which I think if I do a Control-Shift-T, it'll come back up. The free book, if you go to automation, what we were just looking at, here's the kind of questions about it. The worksheet points over to my recording on it and what we were doing. I have my little Linux is the way shirt on. And then there's some discussion questions that you got to work through. You know, what is automation? Kind of what's your understanding of it? How is it in relation to being an administrator or an administration type role or a security role? And we think of automation, how does it tie into things you do? Like what are automations that you work with, right? And then what is the definition of a trigger? So you have a trigger, and what triggers can you read about or define, and where would you place triggers to positively affect your systems? There's some definitions, digging deeper, and then the lab, right? The lab is all the same stuff that we just did, but it's just having you practice each of those different things. And then this is if you wanted to specifically pull it down into your environment. You could use PuTTY. You can download the lab, which, I don't know. Yeah, you can actually just do these commands, right? But then in some of the later ones, I have it be a little more interactive. So, all right, before we go to the next lab, because we'll go into lab 2 in a minute here, I'm going to play another round of Brotato. So, we're on 14. I've got all my guns. Let's see how we do. And then, yeah, if you guys have questions about that, if you guys have questions about our Discord or, you know, any of the kind of stuff that we do around getting people into Linux, let me know. Because, you know, the whole goal of me being on here is to show you guys that you guys can do this stuff. This is not an unattainable career for you guys to get into. I know sometimes, you know, there are times when the job market is bad, right? There's times when it's harder to get in, but I don't ever think it's impossible for you. I think that it's one of those things where sometimes, you know, sometimes there's more stuff in your way than not, but we still have to, you know, think about the things that we can do, right? Because we can't change all the circumstances, but we can affect the things that we can affect, right? And I've actually had a few talks the last few days on like what we do in the systems engineering world, how we look for work, all that kind of stuff. So I have some talks on that recently. We're going to take this because it gives us regen and then it gives us speed, but they get 25% more speed for the next wave only. We're going to take attack speed because that's good. And then more guns. Give me more guns. And then we get a mouse that'll give us 10% lifesteal. That's pretty high, but then 10% more enemies. We'll take it. And then we're going to take another laser gun. And we'll take harvesting and less melee because we don't care about that. And then, or melee, I don't care how you say it. I guess melee is more correct because that's how it saw it. We got a boss this level. We did speed a boss up 25%, but that shouldn't be too bad. Let's see who we got. This boss is called Mother. And what happens is when I beat this one up a little bit, it's just going to start making a bunch of friends here soon. And that's not too bad as long as you got enough, as long as you got enough damage, which while I do have enough damage, I'm not like getting enough penetration on there, which is not a good problem to have as a guy. It's a bad problem to have. Oh, somebody finally took my damage down. But now let's see. Oh, we're not able to. He's just got too many guys getting in front of him. If you guys can see that, so I can't. Jeez, I can't damage him. I just need to stay. Oh, I just need to stay away. Oh, that's frustrating. That was frustrating. All right. Do multitasker again. We're going to do it in the Abyss instead of the Crash Zone. That was super effing annoying. How's it going, Hayes? Taking a break from soldering. Nice, nice. Hayes, I saw that you've been putting something up every day. You've been putting up music every day. If you guys don't know, Hayes is on YouTube, and he makes sound for us. Different sounds. Every day for the month, yeah. You know, it's actually funny you're doing that. Well, not funny, but it's curious you're doing that because November they also do a thing called NaNoWriMo. Have you guys ever heard of NaNoWriMo? NaNoWriMo. It's just like that, the big caps down there. And NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, and you write a novel in 1 month. It's actually a fun little thing. I've never finished a novel with it, but I have written some. I haven't written one since maybe 2013, but it's a fun little thing, and people do it all of November. So you have to average about 5,000. You got to average about 5,000 words a day, but the point is just to go, like just to go write. And I think it's an interesting thing. I used to run a writers group when I was younger. Me and some of my buddies we liked writing stuff, so we would write, and then we would practice things, and we would practice like just doing descriptions and just interviewing characters that we had to make them more interesting and ask them about their families and such, and you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you ever look it up, it's NaNoWriMo, and it's a free nonprofit type thing, but they're in the middle of it right now, so you might not want to hop in. Oh wow, did they lose their thing? Man. I'm pretty sure that's been NaNoWriMo for a long time. Oh well. Oh, looks like 5 months ago they said it was dead. I don't want to get into any of the politics of it, but it looks like I don't know any of that stuff. But what I can tell you is it looks like they're. Oh, that sucks. I mean, it sucks that anything. Oh man. Yeah, I don't even want to read any of that. That just sucks because it was a good cause and it got people doing stuff, you know. And yeah, you can do any of that stuff. Bush 1900 said, just arrived, can give an overview of which types of AI stuff. I don't do any AI stuff here. We have guys in our Discord that do a lot more AI stuff than me. The thing over on the left is actually, so I was building labs earlier, and this is just VS Code. So this is a expansion of all my labs in Killer Coda. And the lab, this is, strictly speaking, it's a folder structure, and then it just gets pushed up into GitHub, and then they get pulled down as these labs that are free over in Killer Coda, which we're about to go to Lab 2. So anybody that wants to do Automation Lab 2 with us, because you guys voted earlier, before some of you guys popped in, the guys voted and said, what do we want to do? And I gave them the option of we could write a lab. I have to write 2 more labs, or we could just go and do the lab. So they said, let's do the lab. So I said, all right. So now this is Lab 2. And before we get into Lab 2, which is interacting with the operating system, this lab is free. It's designed as part of a larger set of instruction that is also free. And here's the link to it. So if you guys go in here, you would see here's the lab, and here's Unit 2, and here's the lab that we're doing in Unit 2 right here, right? So if you wanted the worksheet, which is free, and if you wanted to see like how triggers and input validations and things work, you can play with that. and you can go watch my video. Interact with the OS using bash and the scripts provided in root. So if we pwd and ls, we see these scripts that are there. Okay, what are these scripts going to try to do? So psef, when we run that command, shows us everything that's going on in our system. And these are all the process IDs and parent process IDs of these commands and different things that are running. We can then go and count them up if we wanted to, because the system can count way better than I can. So word count -l just took the output that was going to come to the screen right here. It was going to go to standard out and put it into its standard input and counted via lines. That's all it did, right? So we ran that. Now, there's a bunch of other things that we can do here, and I sometimes show you guys this. I can look with the command like awk. I can say, just show me one column. So I just want that first column maybe, and that'll just drop the first column for me. And then one that I like to do here is I sort them, and then I do a unique -c, and it will sort and count all of those things. So what's happening here, 160 processes are being run by the root user, and then there's these other processes that are running. What the heck's a light DM? I don't know what a light DM is. I might go see what's going on with this. And for me to do that, I would do a psef grep-i for light DM. Now I ignores case, so I can get upper or lowercase, and I'd go, huh, what is this thing doing? Light DM is doing something out here. I don't know what this is. User sbin light DM. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's some kind of monitoring thing. I don't know what that's doing. It almost looks, just from what I'm seeing here, like, I don't know exactly what it's doing at all, really. But we can see that it's there. We can see that it's doing quite a bit of stuff. I can maybe go run the light DM command and do things like light DM version, maybe. See if it'll tell me the version. And maybe I can read the man on it. I literally don't know what this thing is. I've never seen it before. And it's a display manager. Okay, so it's a display manager. It may be the display that they're giving me for this. Because, I mean, look, this is tied to a lot of stuff right here. There's a lot of stuff going on right here. Unity greeter. Maybe this is how it's sharing out our sessions. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, excuse me. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. I just went full sneeze mode. Yeah, and PSF. There we go. Now, I might be able to see what's going on from my bash prompt. Go $$ here. And 1776, and I can see what's going on with my system. And it's possible that there's some mapping back to some of these. 965 right here, right? 965 is this process ID, and that 965 is right here. So it's very possible. I mean, that's very involved in some way with kind of what's going on. So we could, the point is we could start really digging into this, right? And I can go, oh, that's interesting. That's probably how I'm being presented access into this virtual machine that I'm, or this is actually a KubeVirt box that we're connected into, but for all intents and purposes, it's a real Linux box. And then maybe when I'm done looking at this, I go run that first script. So this is a shell script, and I'm going to run it. And it went and did some things, and it looks like it output checking the top of the Etsy password file, and then it did that. And then it said it's checking the bottom of the Etsy password file, and then it did that, I think. But now I might want to cat that file to see what it actually says it was doing. And all it did was it gave me a bin bash, and then it said pull the Etsy passwd file and display the first 10 lines. It told me what it was doing, and then it did the command head -n10. Now, it's actually funny. You don't need the 10 because head, strictly speaking, by default as a command, does 10. So does tail by default. But we can modify it. Can I modify it to show the first 15 and the last 15 lines? I should be able to do that. I should be able to hit vi root u2 script 1.sh, right? And then I should be able to modify this to be R15, escape :WQ, and I should be able to run that again, and then now it would show the first 15 and the last 15, and then if I cat that file, I would see that it's now doing 15. Okay, or could I do less, or could I do more? But it's interacting with the file system in that inside this script, it's going and it's reading from a file or doing something against some path in the file system, right? So that's super simple for a lot of people. But maybe if you've never messed with this or written a script, that might be your first time seeing something like that. Now, we're already in a bash shell, so this is it's actually funny. Your shebang line at the top here, this is what's called a shebang line. This isn't really needed. If 100% of the time, all the time, this will always be called from bash. You really could just ignore this. But it's very useful for if you're ever going to port this anywhere, and if you run different shell environments. Some of us run bash as our default shell. Some of us, oh, there's Rossberger. How's it going, Ross? Here, you know what? I'll do something I don't normally do. Or, well, I was streaming earlier, so I didn't, because I was streaming earlier, I had my camera off for today. Or I had my camera off for now. But I'll pop back on because Rossberger's here. If Rossberger's here, I'll be on camera, right? So what we're doing right now is the guys voted earlier, and they said, hey, can we do some lab stuff? Can we go through this Killer Coda stuff that's all free, right? Yeah, right. I haven't shaved in a while either, so pretty rough. But I'm gonna take this out on all the white belts tomorrow in jiu-jitsu. And Ross, you might know this, that we have a 5 a.m. class out here, and the class that I go to, the gym that I go to, it's called M1 out here. My buddy that runs it was a Green Beret for 12 years, so there's that. And then there's a Tuesday, Thursday class that's for firefighters and vets, and we have Luke Air Force Base not too far from us, so that's out in Phoenix. And well, I'm in Glendale, but it's over in Surprise where their gym is. And the 5 a.m. class, you might say, nobody's coming to 5 a.m., right? You're like 3 of you. No, we have like 30 or 40 people sometimes in this class. It's a really big jiu-jitsu class. So then it's just like, just roll up all the white and blue belts and stuff. So it's pretty good. Yeah, it's actually good. And his gym has been around long enough now that we have a fair amount of purples and browns. And the only reason I say that, so for you guys that don't know, it goes white, blue, purple, brown, black. There's not I'm a black belt and I'm about 270 pounds, so I can just lay on top of anybody I want, and there's no cardio. But if you're like a purple or a brown, you're going to give me a little bit of a, a little more of a fight. But if you're like a white or a blue belt, I'll just lay on you, and that'll be the whole match, right? So I've been doing that damn sport for so long that it's, I'll just go in there sometimes and I'll just wrap my belt around people's necks sometimes when we're rolling. But anyway, so what was I showing you guys? We were dealing with bash and interacting with the system. People that want to do this, Killer Coda is free, right? I always tell you guys Killer Coda is a free system. And it's one of my favorite things to get you guys hands-on. And I tell you guys, 17 years now of teaching college, I know that if I try to get a bunch of people in a bunch of different servers, we're just going to have a mess. Nobody's going to be on the right command prompt. Everything's going to be everywhere. The reason I like Killer Coda so much is, one, it's free. Anybody, you have no excuse not to do this if you guys want to. It's free. You just, you need a Google account, which literally every person on planet Earth has. Well, if they want it, I guess. But then all you have to do is go in here and just click the commands, right? It'll just do the things for you. And then, I'm explaining them to you, but there's also all the free book stuff. This is the book here for people that want the free book online that shows this is what the automation course looks like, right? So I don't leave you guys anywhere stranded trying to figure out what's going on. This stuff's all free. But Ross, you'll also like this if you're still around. You guys all shifted, but Phoenix, Arizona, doesn't change time zones with everybody else. So I work with the guys from NOAA, National Geographic Atmospheric Agency, but a lot of them are East Coasters. So I used to have to get up. I was already at the gym, but then I'd come home, and I had my first call some mornings at 5:30 in the morning because it's 8:30 for them. But now, because we didn't move, but you guys all did, now I'm only 2 hours off. So 8 o'clock starts are now 6 o'clock for me. So that's a lot more reasonable. And I think Ross is up in New York somewhere. So it's when he starts on East Coast time, it's only 2 hours off for me. So it's not nearly as early for me because Ross streams during the day, if you guys don't know. Also, apparently I don't have any of my mods here. Shout out. But yeah, the wife will sometimes be leaving for work in the morning, and she'll just be hearing a bunch of noise coming from my office. And she's like, "What the hell are you doing in there?" And I'm like, "Rossberger's flipping out, guys. It's raw. Like wifey, don't blame me for what he's doing on stream." And she's like, "Are you guys farting and all this stuff?" And I'm like, "Look, I can't help what's going on this stream right now." But Ross has a pretty active stream in the early mornings, so I like hanging out in there. All right, so where were we at? We were running scripts, right? We're just hitting buttons and running stuff. But then we're going in and looking at those things and seeing what the system's doing kind of like under the hood, right? So just want you guys to know that. The next script that we look at here is going to generate a log. Oh, it says, hey, I'm generating a log with today's date in it. And then it says, I created a log at, and then it uses this little tilde character. Tilde is up above your shift and above your tab key. And that tilde is the default value for your home. So if you echo $home at a shell, you will see the home that is set for your system. And then if you were to CD, so like let's say I just go over to like the temp directory and I CD back to tilde, I will go back to home. But I just wanted to show you guys something. That is not absolute. This is my shell, right? Like you guys have seen like movies where like somebody can like a Doctor Strange where he can like modify reality. The bash shell is your reality. So you could, if you wanted to, you could say home equals temp. And then now for the rest of this, while I'm down in root, if I CD to tilde, it's going to take me over to temp now. And when I echo home, I have modified that for now. Now, that's not always going to be true. In fact, I can resource, I can just source .bash, bash rc, and it'll go, oh, it's root. It's a dot, root, dot bash rc. We can source the bash rc file, and this will now set my home. It should set my home back to. No, it didn't set it. I wonder where that's set then. We go dig in where that's set. I thought it was set down in. Is my bash rc not? Huh? It must be created before that. But the point is, we could go and modify that back if we wanted to. So where were we at? Anyway, so now let's look in the root directory. And we should see that log that was created by that file. And then we can go read that file if we wanted to. And it said we're going to generate a log with today's date in it. So we generated a log with today's date in it. And it put the date down in log. So right, that's home directory, log. And then we did a date creation with what's called an interpolation. If you want to see that run, you just go like this. You just say date plus, where's my plus sign? Percent capital F, right? And it'll show you what that's going to do. That should also look exactly like what we just saw. So I tell you guys all the time, these things that we do, it's like Chutes and Ladders, right? It's no more difficult than a game of Chutes and Ladders. You guys ever played Chutes and Ladders? You count out your things, and if you land somewhere, you climb up the ladder. You land somewhere else, you slide down the chute. Or I guess there's an old version of the game called Snakes and Ladders too. But the point is, everything points to something else. There's nothing that's happening inside of a system that's magic. It's only magic. Guys, listen, this is very important. It's only magic. Like when we call something auto-magical or something is magic in like a sci-fi movie, once they explain it to you and once it's sufficiently been explained and you understand it, now it's not magical anymore. That's why we call that like demystifying. Yeah, have you ever heard of like Snakes and Ladders or Chutes and Ladders? I think Snakes and Ladders, there's an old movie. This is super weird, guys. Something tagged me on Amazon Prime. So you guys all know what Prime is, right? Like Amazon Prime where you can get stuff shipped to you. But there's Prime Video. Something triggered on there that said like, hey, this guy, Scott. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going eventually to Bread. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. There's that's not Camus that said it, right? That's not Albert Camus. That's the other guy, the other science fiction guy. Camus was more of a philosopher anyways, but we could look him up. But the point is, I forgot where I was going with that. But oh God. So something tagged me on Amazon Prime that Scott here wants to watch as much as he can fucking old British comedies and old British horror stories. And guys, if you don't think like somebody from like the 70s or 80s can put together a good British horror or a good horror show, or like there's like these old like horror like TV shows that were Arthur C. Clarke, that's exactly right. Yeah. No, there's some really good old horror. And then there's some really bad ones, but this one was called The Lair of the White Worm, which is by Bram Stoker, the same guy who wrote Dracula, right? Bram Stoker's Dracula. But the interesting thing to me, and I actually called the wife and made her watch it with me later, was there is an 18-year-old Hugh Grant in this movie. So this movie is so old that Hugh Grant is like a little kid in it. think he's like 18 or 19. He's taken over as like the caretaker of his estate because his father's died. And then if you want to ever go look up what Lair of the White Worm is, the whole reason I brought that up is not because the movie was great. It was a okay movie, but because Snakes and Ladders is used in that movie because the girl is the girl is she's a, well, there's a few different people, but she can turn people into it's called the Lair of the White Worm, but she's basically like a snake creature, like a naga almost, if you guys know what a naga is, from like Dungeons and Dragons or those kind of games. So anyways, yeah, Arthur C. Clarke, though, that's a great quote, the one there. All right, so we go and we look and we see that worked the way that we expected it to, and then we should also maybe cat out that file. You can always cat a file, right? Log, hit tab, it'll finish it for you, and it did put that one value in there for us. Now we've changed our environment, so this won't continue doing that. This would now go right out to temp, but we need to understand that. This is also it brings up an interesting point in relative versus absolute pathing in scripts. If I were to, let's fix this script real quick. So I viu2 script 2.sh, right? And oops, let's go cd back to root and do that. And then let's just change this and let's be absolute for a second. And I say, well, I know that I'm the root user, and I'm always going to do this like this. Does anybody know what the danger to that is? Well, it's going to work. Watch, we can run that script right here. Just run it again. Right, just run it. Run it. Oops, oh well, run it again. And then keep running it, right? Now, it's populating correctly, but does anybody know what the problem with that is from like a portability standpoint? If I now take this script and I want to give it to one of you guys to run on your system at home, what has to happen? Or I say, hey, get into my environment and use your user to run this. But what if you're not root? This is what we call an absolute path, right? It's absolute from the root directory. But before, it was a relative path to just your home directory as whatever user you have. And the user you have always has permissions to write to their home directory. So now, like, you guys see how, and this is one of the things when people talk about, should I write a script to always be absolute or write a script to always be relative? It kind of depends, guys. I write a lot of absolute pathing when I'm writing like root. Only root will ever run this. Only like an admin on a system will run this. I will do a lot more like absolute pathing on things. But there are reasons if you want portability to do relative pathing. And that's something to think about. A lot of times scripts will generate their path first, and then they'll do everything within a directory that they make in a path that they validate that they have permissions for. But it really depends how robust your script is, right? Depends on what you're doing. All right, so now we're doing our lab still. You guys can follow along if you want. The lab is posted for anybody that wants to do it with me. You've decided to verify and test Python and see if Python can interact with our operating system. We're just a normal user out here, but in the last lab, we did a bunch of things with Python to make sure we could execute it. But now can we interact with this operating system that we're in? So we're going to run some scripts and see Python work and see if it works the way that we expect. So I'm going to run my root use script Python, and this thing looks like it did some stuff. It looks like it printed out maybe that same file. It looks pretty similar to what we were in. And then it looks like it did it again, some other part of it, and then it looks like it did something else maybe at the end of it. So let's go look at what that script was going to try to do. It says right here that it's going to open Etsy Pass WD, but only for reading, right? That's explicitly only for reading, which is good because we couldn't write to it anyways. We can validate that too. We can ls-l Etsy Pass WD, and we can see that it's owned. The owner is root, the user owner, and he has read-write. The group root has read-only, and everybody else on the server has read-only. That's what those permissions mean. It's owner, group, others, right? OG, I don't know. User, group, other. I hate those permissions. I never use permissions like that. But it's owner, group, everybody else, right? But then this is the owner, and this is the group owner. But the point is, up here, we read out of there, and we printed the first 10 lines, and then we printed the last 10 lines. And then looks like the script displays just the last 10 lines. And this one gave just the last 10 lines right here. So this one was the first 10 lines and then the last 10 lines. And then this one did just the last 10 lines right there. That's all this script did. Super simple, super easy. We can then go run another one. So we can modify this, and you might have to read the field manual to continue if you want to make that 15 lines. Right? Can you make that 15 lines? Probably. I think you could probably see that and make that work. Then we go run the next one, and this one does something else. What is this one doing? This shows something, but what is it showing? Right? Like, what are we getting out of this? Well, we go look. We're reading that same Etsy Pass WD file as read-only, right? We can't write to it anyways, so it doesn't matter, but we can only read it. And then now we read it, and we go and we look for bin bash on each line. And then, if we find bin bash on a line, we print out the line, splitting on colon, because that's the field delimiter. There's 7 fields, and they're colon delimited, and we print the first one. Let's test if that's right. So I'm going to grep Etsy Pass WD for bin. We're going to grep, we'll go bin bash from Etsy Pass WD. Do we see only those 4 lines? Yes. Do we see root, Ubuntu, KC interval, and Nova? Yes. Do we see them at the first field, as I said? And 0 is the first field. We start counting at 0. So it would be 0 through 6? Yes. Could I modify this script here to show me, instead of this field, could I make it show me just the third field here, that user ID? Maybe. Let's see. Let's vi root u2 script 2.py. Change this to 2, right? Because I want the third field, so that's 2. And then, if I run that again, does it do... Are you home, wifey? Oh. The wife is back home already. I did not realize she was back home. Did you do your thing? Oh. Oh. I thought it was an hour. Guys, I might have to go soon. The wife's home. We gotta watch more stuff. But let's run this real quick. Yeah, look, there's those numbers. 0, 1000, 0, and 119. Ah. There's a permissions problem here that typically this is not going to pass like a STIG standard. And it's right here. It's that no other user can be 0 like root. Now, for these labs and for this environment, you're coming in on the KC internal user anyways. So they make that user the root user, and they're giving you root on these boxes anyways. So it's fine, whatever. But I just tell you, like, in your professional enterprise, this will be a huge red flag, and this will not fly. You won't ever have a second user be 0, because then they kick off things as root, and you say, well, yeah, but they also have permissions as root, but they come in a different way, and that's never acceptable from like a forensics or an accountability, right? We talk about we authenticate a user, know that they are who they say they are. Then we authorize them to do things by giving them permissions. That's important. And then we need to be able to audit what they did. And in this case, we've created an inauditable environment. I can't tell you if this guy did it or this guy did it, because they're the same guy according to the system. And again, don't worry about that now, but from a security standpoint, that'll never pass anything in enterprise, right? Like you're doing something for a business or something. But for labs, guys, for labs and for this kind of, and for free, don't shit on it. It's a great tool. This is probably one of the best tools I've ever seen on the web. And we keep going, and then we do some interaction with Ansible. So we run Ansible playbook, and we go and we touch a bunch of stuff, and we generate some scripts on the fly. This is fun. We actually just created those scripts with Ansible. And then we can actually use Ansible to run those scripts if we want to. It's kind of funny. It's even crazier because now Ansible's running it, and then here, this is how you would run the generation of those scripts and then actually print out the debug of the values that were done. So this is just, it's starting to get kind of silly, but it's useful if you've never done like Ansible to create something, maybe to generate something as you go and you stamp it down on a server with variables that you know, or if you wanted to run something as a shell script inside of it, and then maybe you go do an ls-l, right? and then you look here. Okay. So guys, that's you know, these are the labs. These are all free. And also one thing I want to note for you guys, I'll throw this up for anybody that wants it as well. The course, which we're designing as we go, right? I keep building more and more of this, is completely free. So I'm going to link that to people that want it. You guys can go, if you're in our Discord, everything in Discord is free as well. You just got to go in there and get involved and talk with people. And there's quite a bit of like discussions and stuff like that you have to do if you want to interact with the course. But the reason I do that is not to like, it's not like because I want to sit around and go, I got all these guys to do stuff and then I laughed at them. One, I don't even have time to do that if I wanted to. And two, thinking through things with other people, one, that's like a sign of academia. Like that's how we do things. Two, you're going to see how other people think. So that's super useful because you tend to get stuck in the way that you see things. Even I, as a person who's been doing this a long time, a college professor, I get stuck in the way that I see things. And when I see other people do things different ways and look at things different ways, it helps me to break like being down in like the rut, right, of like what I'm doing. And then the other reason why I make you guys write stuff up, and this may seem like the most sinister of all of them, but it's because you're not going to do the things you do professionally in a vacuum anyways. You are going to have to present your ideas to other people. They're going to mock them. They're going to think they're incorrect. They're going to correct you. Some are going to correct you in a spirit of goodwill. Some of them are going to correct you like an asshole. That's engineering. But my point is, if you are not used to expressing yourself like that, this gives you a place to go and work through those things and talk with other people. And like, look, we can go look at what other people have said in any of these, right? We can go in there and look at what this guy said, whatever. We're not going to do that. But I'm saying like these course discussion posts are all here. And we could see for security discussion posts too, people went in and talked, and you got to do one post and then one response to people, right? But people are still in there talking through that kind of stuff. Yeah, I had better thicken up my skin. Yeah. Me fail English? That's impossible. Is it even going to say impossible? It won't even say impossible. Me fail English? That's impossible. That's a favorite quote from Ralph Wiggum. Anyway, so I'm still building these out. I got to fix 6, 7, and 8, but the labs are coming up. As you guys see, the labs are all here, and there's a lot of like, you can go do the stuff, but then there's a lot of like kind of color commentary in the lab, in the worksheets and that kind of stuff to give you guys more of like a understanding of it. And then here's all the other courses. The Linux admin course is done and the security course is done, but you guys get there. Quartz, you can start at any time. I was going to start one officially in January again. So like maybe I need to throw that up in the Discord and say, hey, for people that are interested, you could start at any time, but I would like to start it over again and just have like a real run of it for people that want to do it. Because honestly, like the more it's weird. It's like being stoked up in a fire. You ever see how coals all get up in a fire and they get real hot and they burn real good, and then later on in the night they kind of move further apart, so you get more and more. And it's true. Like the more you are around other people that are learning something, there's a lot of value to that, which is why there are universities and why there used to be the math. The people would meet together in secret to teach math to each other and learn and that kind of stuff, because this is the kind of stuff that that you don't learn in a vacuum, kind of, right? You should work with other people. So anyways, Quartz, hopefully that's a good answer for you. I was thinking of starting another one in January. I didn't start another one this year because I was a little discouraged last time. Nobody was doing it. So I kind of just finished it off and was like, all right, whatever. But we're gonna get back to it, because I really do think, it's all right here, right? Here's the Linux admin course. This one's done. But there's a lot of stuff in there. Plus, I have a little more capacity, so I can put the incident response stuff back together. I have a few of those that we haven't been using. But yeah, all the stuff that I think people need. It's maybe not everything. There's more. There's always more, but it's a good start to get you guys ready for like admin stuff for people that want to do admin stuff. So, all right, guys, I got to drop off here because the wife's home. But I will be back around later on this week. Look for me, hanging out, doing Linux. Here's the Discord for anybody that needs it. And it should pop up also for you guys on the YouTube side. Here's the Discord link. Let me pop that up for you guys. I definitely appreciate everybody coming. You know, this is hopefully motivating for you guys to get in here and do this stuff. Yeah, I appreciate you guys all coming by. I will see some of you guys later on in the week.